In Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather, we follow the exploits of mafia boss Don Vito Corleone, who is subjected to an assassination attempt, and during his recovery, his wild and aggressive eldest son Sonny takes over the family business. Sonny is full of rash fire and explosive anger, admirable traits in times of war, but he lacks the subtleties to be a successful mob boss, and is constantly reined in by consigliere Tom Hagen, who is something of an adopted son to the Corleone family. The second son, Fredo, is the unspoken embarrassment of the family, a middling member of the Corleone crime family structure, but who crucially fails to protect his father during the assassination attempt, and he subsequently crumbles mentally, being sent out to Las Vegas to learn the casino business, where his degenerate behavior angers his father. Neither of Vito's two eldest sons were cut out to replace him. Ironic then, that Michael Corleone, the youngest of the three and the most determined to seek a life away from his father's business, is destined to become intertwined with it. Disapproving of his father's ways, Michael enlists in the Marines and fights in the Second World War, in part as a form of rebellion against his own father. But Michael never truly escaped the long arm of Vito, who used his influence to keep Michael as far away from danger as possible during the war, as the book tells us. When Michael has to kill the drug dealer Solozzo to protect his father, he seeks shelter in Sicily, where he learns about life in the old country, and upon his return he goes to work for his father, slowly replacing him until he becomes the new head of the Corleone Empire, surpassing his father's vision by putting the Corleone Empire on the level of big business. But Michael's success in the business world, spurred by a desire to go legitimate, is at the detriment of his family, who he struggles to keep a hold of and eventually loses. His success with the family curses him to lose his family, such as his brother, who he shockingly has murdered, his wife, who separates from him, and his son, who becomes alienated from him. Michael's family falls apart and he ends the second film in his compound all alone, reflecting on his life and family, the legacy of his father. While the Godfather film series primarily focuses on organized crime and the Corleone family's operations, there are significant father and son themes that play a central role in the narrative. In some ways, you could argue the father and son dynamic, perhaps the most delicate dynamic in the nuclear family structure, is the central theme of the first film, and yet it is never openly said. There's just little hints here and there, like Vito watching Michael through his office, refusing to take the wedding photo without Michael, Clemenza telling Michael his father was proud of him for fighting in the war. It's there, it's always there, and it's one of the most powerful aspects of the film, but it's never brought to the forefront. The resentment Michael has for Vito, the longing Vito has for Michael to come to him as a son should, the disgust Michael has for the world his father is involved in, whilst battling his genuine love for his father, Vito's want for Michael to find success in the legitimate world, Vito's disapproval of Michael fighting for strangers in the war, and an eventual resignation between the two. A kind of love that manifests between the two, where they both mutually acknowledge that neither truly wanted this path for Michael, but things turned out the way they ended up doing so. As the novel says, every man has but one destiny. The two only share a single scene together alone in the entire trilogy, at least where Vito is fully conscious, and though they start the film a world apart, they understand each other on a level nobody else in the family could. Michael's shrewdness is shown when he can sense his father is uncomfortable, and Vito's love of his son is on display with him openly expressing his regrets, and his trust of his son's ability showcased with him easing off as the family's patriarchal figure, drinking more, tending to the garden, becoming more forgetful, something he can afford to do now that Michael has picked up the mantle. Vito has seen the future Michael has in store for him, and it saddens him. In some ways, though this beautiful scene highlights Michael's intelligence, it also shows the short-sightedness of him, that he simply is another cog in the cycle that is destined to be repeated, when Michael was supposed to be the one to break the cycle. Him saying, "I'll handle it," shows he knows his father was bothered by something, but he couldn't tell what. Vito's problem was not that he thought Michael couldn't handle it, but that he shouldn't have to have handled it because the efforts Vito went through in his life, they were to give his children a better life, not for them to follow in his footsteps and become gangsters. I never wanted this for you, as he says. Vito is proud of his son. He's the coolness to his eyes, but he's remorseful that the situation has come to this. A father wants his son to have better and to do better than they did, and it crushes Vito that Michael was sucked back into his world. Vito's wisdom, both in terms of business, like the whole talk about the traitor, and life in general, supersedes Michael's intelligence in this scene. He's become sentimental, careless maybe, to quote the man himself, in a way that Michael could never understand at this point in his life, in spite of his hopefulness and reassurance, saying, "We'll get there, Pop." But the same sentiments would hit Michael in the third film, when it is too late. There just wasn't enough time, as Vito says. Time, that most precious commodity that none of us get back, least of all the aging Don Vito. One of the key aspects of the father and son themes in the Godfather trilogy is the patriarchal family structure and the passing of the mantle. Vito is not only the head of the criminal enterprise, but also the center of his family's universe. He is a protective and guiding figure for his sons, shaping their lives, decisions, and their sense of being. Vito's influence on his sons' choices are profound. Michael, initially reluctant to get involved in the family business, becomes increasingly entrenched in it due to circumstances. His transformation from war hero with moral reservations to a ruthless mob leader highlights the impact of his father's guidance and the inevitability of his fate, how bound it is to the life and the dealings of his father. To be the head of the family is to assume power, but also to assume responsibility, to sacrifice one's own personal happiness, one's autonomy as an individual, for the sake of the family. At one point, Vito says, "Women and children can be careless, but not men." As a man, he is the safety net for his family, the provider, the sustainer, the one who ensures his family's sustenance, his family's well-being, his family's happiness, safety, and prosperity. It's he who must handle the stress and worries that come with being the man of the family. It's a line harking back to the days where he would come home to his wife with a single pair, not burdening her with the news that he has just lost his job, lost it because of a corrupt and oppressive oppressor, I might add, which fueled his desire not to be dangled on a string of powerful people and his unapologetic ways of living his life, as he says. To be careless is to lose one's family, like how Sonny left his wife a widow and his children fatherless due to his recklessness. To be careful is to free one's family from the burden you've placed upon yourself, to allow them a carefree existence. Vito has now played his part as a man, and it's time for Michael to step up in such a way that his two elder brothers fail to do so. The father and son themes also explored are the potential for redemption and reflection. Michael's journey is marked by moments of introspection, regret, and attempts to reconcile with the consequences of his actions and the path he has chosen, a path which he chose to protect his family, but one that of course destroys his family. One of the more desperate scenes is when he approaches his mother in the second film, asking her what his father was thinking deep in his heart, asking whether, in being strong for one's family, could he lose that family? She doesn't understand what he's trying to say. There's no quality mother and son discussion because there's no one left alive who understands Michael. And even his father, would he have understood Michael in this moment? As he says, times are changing. It's a gut-wrenching scene. Michael is at his most vulnerable in the entire film, perhaps the entire saga. He is finally reaching out to someone, trying to see where he went wrong. But there is no one who can talk to him in the way he needs. He needs his father. And he was right about times changing. Mama Corleone stood by her husband, rightly or wrongly. So the challenges Michael faced were different from Vito. Michael's wife betrays him. His brother betrays him. His subordinates betray him. These are unprecedented challenges. In essence, the father and son themes in the Godfather trilogy contribute to the depth and complexity of the characters and their relationships. These themes add emotional resonance to the stories of power, loyalty, and betrayal, making the films not just crime dramas, but also examinations of the bonds that shape individuals and families. This video is something of an introduction to those examinations, something I'd like to discuss further, and some of it which we've already done, like in my video, How Would Vito Handle Fredo's Betrayal? Breaking down the similarities and differences between father and son is something I'd like to do. In fact, let's give it a quick overview. Some of the similarities between them include their determination and cunning. Both Vito and Michael possess a keen intellect and strategic acumen. They navigate the world of organized crime with their shrewdness and resourcefulness, making calculated decisions to achieve their objectives. Michael is the closest of the sons to his father's temperament, intelligence, and, at least in the beginning of his reign, his loyalty to his family. That loyalty is paramount. Vito's commitment to providing for his family and protecting their interests sets the stage for Michael's similar dedication. Both men are willing to go to great lengths, including acts of violence, to safeguard their loved ones. Michael, in fact, goes too far and, as already discussed, destroys his family. Number 2, their transformation. Each character undergoes a transformation driven by circumstances. Vito's evolution from an impoverished immigrant to a powerful mafia leader, and Michael's transition from a war hero detached from criminal enterprises to the head of the Corleone family, highlight their adaptability in extreme circumstances. Number 3, their complex morality. Vito and Michael navigate moral complexities inherent in their positions. While involved in criminal activities, they justify their actions by emphasizing loyalty, family, and honor. The choices underscore the intricate interplay between personal ethics and the demands of their roles. Some of the differences between the men include their origin and era. Highly important. Vito's story is rooted in the early 20th century, marked by his immigration from Sicily to America and his rise in the criminal underworld during the Prohibition era. In contrast, Michael's narrative unfolds in a more modern setting, with his experiences spanning the mid-20th century. Each man had challenges unique to his time period and surrounding. Number 2, their approach to power. Vito is characterized by a measured and diplomatic approach to power. He values relationships and alliances, often leveraging personal connections to solidify his position. Michael, on the other hand, is more pragmatic and ruthless, willing to eliminate threats without hesitation. Number 3, their leadership styles. Vito's leadership is defined by a combination of respect, wisdom, and influence. He garners loyalty through his understanding of people's desires and by granting favors. People are in awe of him. Their love for him is genuine. Michael, as a leader, is methodical and calculated, using fear and force to maintain control. As such, he is colder and more distant than his father. And finally, number 4, the relationship with family. Vito is portrayed as a doting father and devoted husband. He values family above all else and seeks a more stable and legitimate life for his children. In contrast, Michael's relationships are marked by tragedy and detachment, as his ascension to power strains his family ties. So I think we'll leave it there for today. Let me know if you would like more discussions on Vito and Michael Corleone down in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.